Welcome back, everybody, to Northwest Small Batch Brewing. I am still Steven, and gosh, I'm glad you're here. So this is going to be an interesting one. People always ask, it must be cheaper to make beer at home, right? It must be cheaper to make your own beer than buy beer. You must be saving so much money. Well, let's find out if that's true. Before we get started, do me a favor. If you're willing, please consider hitting the subscribe button at the bottom of the screen, the little bell icon. It really helps out the channel. It really motivates me to keep putting out new videos, and I appreciate it because I couldn't do it without all of you. Aww. So thank you. So, is it cheaper to brew your beer yourself at home than it is to buy beer in the store commercially? It's a hard question to answer with 100% accuracy because prices are going to be different wherever you live, whether you're in, even in this country where I'm at, right, in the United States, it's going to be different across the country. And then if you consider overseas and other countries, so that alone makes it difficult for me to answer the question really in a very scientific way. So keep in mind that a lot of this is just going to be like a very generic, unscientific sort of my thoughts on this. So let's start with looking at a really basic American lager, all right? Let's look at Budweiser, right? I just checked my local store. A 6-pack of Budweiser, I wrote it down here, that's why I have notes, so I wouldn't forget. It was $8.99, right? So you divide that by 6 and you're looking at about $1.50 a bottle for Budweiser. It's not worth it, by the way. So what would it cost to make a similar beer at home? So I started looking around at any kind of clone recipes I could find for Budweiser, and I decided that I wasn't going to try to, some of them call for rice and different things, and I'm just going to go with a basic Pilsner. I don't know what Budweiser puts into the beer. I don't know what their actual recipe is, so I'm just going to go with a Pilsner. So if I'm making a 5-gallon batch of beer, that's going to be about 12 pounds of Pilsner. Now, I might be able to do less than that. I guess it depends on the ABV that you're looking for. But let's just go with 12 pounds of Pilsner. The lowest price I could find, like on Northern Brewer, was Breeze Pilsner for $1.79 a pound. That's unmilled. I did not take into consideration what it would cost to have your own mill, like the initial cost, because eventually it pays for itself. And so that's one of those things I didn't calculate into the cost. So the price for 12 pounds of Pilsner unmilled that I would mill myself, $21.48. And then they're probably using some kind of noble hop for their beer, for Budweiser. So an ounce and a half of Hallertau, it's $1.99 an ounce, so you're looking at $2.98, or basically $3. Okay, and not adding anything else, if you're looking at some kind of lager yeast, there's a million you could choose from. You could choose from fresh. I'm sure they're using fresh yeast at Budweiser, and they're washing and reusing their yeast, but I'm just going to go with a dry lager yeast, because there was only one listed. I think they're starting to get sold out on yeast. I noticed a lot of different yeasts are out of stock. But anyway, also hops. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, Lallbrew Diamond Lager Dry Yeast, $7.49. So your grain, your yeast, and your hops all come to $31.95. 5-gallon batch is about 52 bottles. So $31.95 divided by 52 bottles is about 61 cents a beer. And we said it was $1.50 a beer in the store for a Budweiser. So $1.50 for Budweiser, 61 cents for your homemade Pilsner. Now, and if we're talking about the 6-pack price, right, $8.99 for a 6-pack would cost you about $3.70 for a 6-pack at home. So the problem is I didn't calculate the cost of water, because I pay for water if you're using your tap water or you're buying bottled water. Didn't calculate that into it. Star sand for sanitizing. I did not include what it might cost, how much the star sand would cost. Again, the mill, using a mill if you have your own mill. The cost of electricity, I didn't consider that. Any kind of finings. I guarantee you that Budweiser is using some kind of finings. But I did not include like gelatin or something to clear the beer or Warflick during the boil. I didn't add that kind of cost in. What about the cost of a brewing system? Maybe you have whatever system you're using to brew the beer has to cost you some money. So I don't know when you want to call that startup costs, but once you have all that stuff, some of it's still like the star sand and the water. I guess what I'm saying is, you could really try to nickel and dime this, but that's why I said it can't be 100% scientific because it's just too difficult. I'm not going to take the time to try to figure that out. But for making a Budweiser like Pilsner, what we call smash beer, right? You can definitely, by the looks of this, make it cheaper than what you would buy in the store. The question is, do you want to spend the effort and the time and the work to do it? And it takes, a month, a little over a month or whatever to get to start to finish. So there's that too, it's your time. So is it cheaper to make your beer at home? I guess if it's a real basic beer like a Pilsner smash beer, yes, it probably is cheaper. You're probably making it cheaper than what you can buy in the store. That being said, more complicated beers, I think you're going to find are not only not less expensive to make yourself, they're actually more expensive to make yourself. If you start looking at stouts that are specialized, like you could make a milk chocolate coffee oatmeal stout. I don't know. I'm totally making this up, and I would not make that, by the way. But what I'm saying is, think about all the stuff. I mean, when it comes to chocolate beer, there's a million ways to add chocolate to a beer. And so the cost balloons up. Or if you're making a fruited beer, how much does the fruit cost? And if you're adding stuff to it, anything you add to it, right? Different things take different ingredients. And once you get beyond just the grain, the price starts to balloon up. Barley wine is going to cost more, right? Because it takes extra yeast usually because of the high gravity and extra grain and everything. So I doubt you can buy a barley wine that's cheaper than, that you can make one cheaper or much cheaper than what you can buy. So bottom line is, can you brew your beer cheaper at home? Yes, if you're making a really simple beer. No, if you're making anything that involves, a lot more ingredients and is more complex. And then, of course, we didn't even talk about the cost of the bottles and the caps and the capper. Like, everything factors into it. I think ultimately you're going to find that the price, even when you say, yes, I can make simple beers cheaper than what I can buy in the store, it's not hugely significant, So the bottom line is most people do not get into brewing their beer at home, this hobby, because they're trying to save money on buying beer. I once had someone tell me something about you're an alcoholic if you brew beer at home because you could just brew as much as you want and it's cheap. And I just explained to them no alcoholic in the world is going to take the time and the effort to make their own beer at home. It's just too much work and it takes too much practice to start getting it right, and the cost and the ingredients. No, there's no way. Anyone who's an alcoholic is going to be buying their products. Anyway, I think that's good enough. That's a long enough explanation. So at any rate, if you have any thoughts on that or prices are different where you're at, maybe I missed something, let me know in the comments. And in the meantime, thanks for stopping by. Always good to see you. Always good to have you here. As always, I'll have a video back here in 1 week. So I will see you soon. And in the meantime, as I always say, keep on brewing.